Justin, Eric, Nathan, and Joseph, tell us what to do.
I'm Spice Williams Crosby from Fatal Games, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
Hey, and welcome back to an extra special show. When I say extra special, I mean the same old shit, but it is our 15th anniversary show. So we're very excited. Thank you for joining us. This is episode, is it 348 or 248?
Don't ask me. I don't remember.
I've lost count. But anyway, it's the 15th anniversary show. So 15 years ago, if you can believe that, we were sat here kind of around about this time talking about Happy Birthday to Me. So today we're going to be talking about a film that goes a little bit further back in almost 20 years, well, over 20 years before that, back to 1961 with the very first Psycho ripoff, arguably William Castle's Homicidal from 1961. So that's my choice. So I'm looking forward to talking to these guys because I've got a feeling, am I right, that none of you had seen this before? Or is it maybe only one of you had?
I've not seen it before.
No, me neither.
I had, but it'd been decades.
Okay, so I'm curious. Obviously, we're not going to spoil the twist, but obviously this film has quite a famous twist. So it's just going to see if any of you were fooled. But before we get on to that, let's see how we are doing. Are you excited, Nathan? 15 years. Could you imagine we'd still be going after 15 minutes, let alone 15 years?
I'm kind of surprised. 15 years. I'm happy.
You weren't quite here at the beginning, were you? You joined us in episode 3 for the initiation, I believe.
That is true.
Not the initiation, it was April Fool's Day.
Oh, okay.
So was that episode 2 then?
Initiation was number 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't there for that one either.
So it might be interesting. I don't know. I just floating this as a kind of like when we do get to one of our bigger shows, as in like we're up to getting to 350, or when we get to one of the kind of milestone shows, it's perhaps revisiting something like the initiation or something that Nathan wasn't part of.
Well, we did the commentaries, which Nathan was a part of.
But we just recycle. We've got to recycle with slash movies after all, isn't it? So, but anyway, well, there's lots of ideas. There's still loads of slash movies to cover.
Oh, yes. I've got no shortage of picks. So.
Oh, God.
Well, there's no shortage of, and as people realise that from the last pick, if they're still watching after Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, yes. Well, I think that was one of our more brilliant shows.
Well, yes. Well, we'll see if we get any feedback on that one. But yes, well, thank you, Nathan. Eric.
Yes.
You've been with us through thick and thin, haven't you?
I have. 15 years. I was in my 30s, Justin, when we started.
Blimey.
I know.
And even when Axum nearly finished you off.
Oh, Axum.
Even though that wasn't one of Nathan's choices, was it? It was David C. Mollet who kind of inflicted that on us.
I still think Club Dread and Feliday were worse, though. I just cannot see what people see in Club Dread at all.
Okay, here's a question for you, Eric. Which one do you prefer?
Out of those two?
Mm-hmm.
Feliday, probably.
Well, there you go.
Eric loves Feliday.
So that's the question that's been on everyone's lips for the last 10 years, 15 years. But yeah, so Joseph, 15 years.
It feels like 150 years.
We're not quite the longest running horror movie podcast on the interwebs, are we? But we're certainly up there.
We're the longest running slasher specific podcast.
And we were also the first.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, well, I can't think of anyone
the
else.
longest running one with a big bully in charge.
Well, I would say the antagonist in this movie reminded me of a certain someone, but or a certain Inga. There's a certain Inga-esque quality with this movie. I think in some of you might be some proto-Inga going on. But Joseph, what are you drinking? That looks
like a milkshake.
It's a It's a skull with an exposed brain, and it's got sweet, sweet coffee inside of it.
Is it? Because it kind of, from the untrained eye, on the very small thumbnail, it looked like it was kind of some giant dildo with a straw sticking out of it.
A new and shocking movie experience. Your full admission refunded if you are too frightened to see all of Homicidal.
So we are covering Homicidal. I've got a very, very short, this is like a less than 2-line synopsis from IMDb, and it says, the brutal stabbing and murder of a justice of the peace sparks an investigation of dark family secrets in a sleepy Southern Californian town. Now, did you know, before we get into it, there's a connection with this town and another early 80s slasher movie. Now, this town was, checking my notes, I am checking my notes on the thing, what was it called? It was called, where does it say? Have I deleted that bit of notes? Well, I just kind of, that's weird because I did write this down. Oh, here we go. No, it's not there anymore. I must have deleted it back. But the town, have you noticed any connections with an early 80s slasher movie set in the same town with kind of some similarities, not to do with plotting, but to do with the nationality of the townspeople?
Is it Death Valley?
No.
Huh.
Eric, have a guess. Oh, I've got it. I have got it was under my because I got so many notes here. I'm so professional.
So many notes, like Nathan. Yeah.
Yes, I always do.
Well, here's a clue. It's a town. It's a real town in California called Solvang.
Early 80s, set in Southern California.
Yeah, and another clue. It's to do with its Danish heritage.
Yeah, that doesn't lead me anywhere. I can't think of any Danish connected early 80s slasher movies.
I think we have covered this film. If we haven't, we probably should. I'll give you another clue. Eric in a nappy.
Hey! Is it the Unseen?
It is the Unseen,
We
yes.
have covered it.
We have covered it, okay. But that's in Solvang, which was when they did if you remember that movie, it's got Barbara Bach and all the Danish folk dancing going on in it. And they go for the Danish festival. So, but this film, Homicidal, is actually set in the same town as Solvang, and there's a few other Danish connections there. But this movie was released a year after Psycho. William Castle, who was, of course, the famous trickster of films like The Tingler, 13 Ghosts, and of course another movie we've covered on the podcast, Straight Jacket, with Joan Crawford. It's probably my favourite William Castle movie. Said that it was a complete coincidence that this movie was like this. He'd actually been thinking about this movie for about 10 years before he made it, so it had no connection whatsoever to Psycho. So do you believe that?
I would say no.
I don't believe it.
But the central, just going a little bit of the plot. Basically, the plot is you have this this young woman who's got these amazing kind of 60s hair with these kind of curls, these kind of wings that go off. She turns up at a hotel and gives promises a bellboy $2,000 to marry her that evening, the justice of the peace. And they turn up there and she pulls out a big stiletto knife and stabs the justice of the peace, who's been drinking beer and is a bit worse for the wear, in the stomach multiple times in arguably much gorier murder sequence than the original Psycho. And then she hotfoots it back to her house, torments her mute, wheelchair-bound housekeeper, and is hiding a deep, dark secret, which we'll discuss as we get on a little bit later. But for me, this film is like most of William Castle's movies. It's kind of, it bridges the bridges between the kind of serious and the camp. It's certainly a lot campier than Psycho. This was released by Columbia Pictures, so it's a major studio release. But I really enjoy it because it's also got, of course, the William Castle, the fright break, which I was thinking we should actually incorporate that for Eric's Joke of the Week.
A laugh break so that people don't split their sides laughing and have to go to A&E.
But Eric, your Joke of the Week is a laugh break. So, because there are no laughs. But I'm interested, of course, the big twist, and of course you haven't seen Homicidal, then go and watch it before you listen to this, because we are going to spoil it. There are some connections to other early 80s slasher movies, most notably Sleepaway Camp, which is kind of hinting at the twist. So I'm going to come to you guys for your thoughts on this. But obviously, the big twist, if I'm just going to spoil that, because so it's going to
I think we've already spoiled it.
Well, I've already spoiled it, but the central to the thing is that the woman is, in fact, and I've got to try and get this correct, she was born a girl, and she dresses as a girl, but she was raised a boy because her father was so misogynistic he wouldn't leave his money to a girl. So he was raised as a boy, and he went with his Helga, the housekeeper, to Denmark and came back, and he plays both the actress Jean Arliss, which was a pseudonym for another actress, plays both the female and the male characters who are supposed to be married to each other. So
unconvincingly.
Well, but see, this is a question mark where we get a little bit more into the plot. But interestingly, I was watching some archival little documentary on this that was on one of the earlier releases, and there were some people on that, including the director Don Glutt, who was the director who was going to make one of those the slash movies, the lost slash movies that never came out. But anyway, they were saying that everyone was completely blown away by the twist ending, that these people were the same person, and nobody guessed it. So I kind of knew because I'd seen this movie before and I reviewed it for Hysteria Lives. So when I come to you one by one, I mean, raise a hand if any of you were fooled by the fact that this was you were, Nathan, were you?
Yeah, I was.
Ah, excellent. Well, I'm glad it still works.
I don't know. It wasn't in my mind, I guess. But I also don't know that I was expecting a twist when I watched it. I don't know that I was thinking about there was one. I just thought that she had a motive and we didn't know what it was exactly yet.
Well, it's quite a rarity, isn't it, in a lot of ways for the films we're watching. It's not all the time, but quite often it's films that we've seen before. So when there is a twist ending, we kind of remember it. So it's actually, we're watching it with that in mind. But I'm intrigued. So how as a first time watch, Nathan, what did you enjoy Homicidal?
Oh yeah, I thought it was excellent. Like you, I think that Straight Jacket is probably my favorite William Castle movie, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of William Castle in that I love gimmicks. You know, it's kind of like how Eric and I talk about 3D sometimes, in that I hate when they don't utilize it gimmicky, like that's how I want it. So it's annoying when they don't. So yeah, I like his gimmicks. I think they're a lot of fun. But Homicidal, yeah, I think that the opening was very effective. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting her to be getting married and killing the justice of the peace at the same time. I love the reaction of the woman playing the piano, who just kind of sits there, puts her hands on her face, and screams over and over again. I also love the line when she's going upstairs and Miriam is kind of getting suspicious about what's going on and stuff, and she's just like, if you stay in this house one more second, I'm going to kill you. And so of course Miriam, she's not dumb in that moment, because she takes off and is gone. So I thought that was a great decision on her part. I loved her scenes with Helga, especially when like pretty much before she kills her, when she's kind of menacing her with the knife. I thought that was really well done and kind of tense. And speaking of which, the scene, my favorite scene in the movie is, of course, right after the fright break, when Miriam sees Helga coming down on the stairs on one of those wheelchair things that takes you down the stairs. I don't know what they're called. But as she's coming down, her head falls off, and I thought that was an amazing scene. I mean, it's definitely got its campy moments, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but I think that there's some effective moments in the movie as well. So, I mean, I found it to be very entertaining. I do admit that I kind of had to rewatch the police, description of what was happening and why Warren was doing what he was doing and all of that. Like, I had to rewatch that because it got a little convoluted and I kind of got lost on what was happening exactly. So but yeah, I still think that it's really good, and honestly it might be my second favorite out of William Castle's movies now that I've seen it. I feel like it was better than I thought it was going to be. And, the whole fright break was just amazing. I love this whole thing of it's too terrifying. So I don't know if you can make it to watch the ending to this film.
You were very brave, Nathan, to make it to the end.
Thank
Yes,
you.
do you know what would have happened to you, Nathan, if you'd been in the cinema and decided you couldn't watch the end of the movie and you had to leave?
Oh, well, I'd be very disappointed in myself because I would want to know what happened. But if I was that terrified, then I would go home and hide under the covers.
But before you did that, apparently one of the things was that you were allowed to leave and get your money back, but you had to go and stand. You had to get a coward's certificate and go and stand in the corner, and everyone who's watched the movie would file past you and laugh at you for being such a wuss.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a fun little affected mystery. And I will say, and I wasn't thinking this in an insulting way, but when the character Warren, when we see him, like, I kept thinking, like, is his teeth really like that, or is there something going on, with his teeth? Because yeah, they just seem, and then of course we find out later that she's wearing like these what do you call them?
Not dentures, veneers.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that when I would see Warren, but I would never, ever have guessed that, that was an actress playing Warren. I would never have known that. So
I would have loved to have seen your face when she pulled her wig off and you would have done a real,
that would be me. I'm very reactive. But yeah, I mean, the ending was good. It predates a lot of movies that use the same kind of ending. And, I think that's pretty awesome. As far as the Psycho, comparison goes, I mean, to me, it feels like a Psycho ripoff, but I love ripoffs. And there's a lot of times I will love a ripoff more than the movie they're ripping off, if I'm honest. But, I love Psycho as well. So I'm not saying that about this. But yeah, I mean, I always love when movies kind of rip off other movies, but I feel like this one also kind of goes in its own direction. So, I mean, it may have been inspired by Psycho, but, I think it's its own movie. And I think that you can understand if it's gained kind of a cult following, which is what I read on Wikipedia. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Nathan. I'm glad one of us kind of enjoyed the twist as it's meant to be. But Eric, when did you first finger Warren?
Oh, Justin. I mean, you're, 73 years old now after doing this show for 15 years, and you're still immature like a 12-year-old.
Which is why we get on so well, Eric, isn't it?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, it's just the first time watching for me. I hadn't seen Homicidal. I think you maybe mentioned in the last show something about a twist ending, and the fact that I knew it was riffing off of Psycho. I kind of knew there was going to be a gender-bending twist to it. I didn't quite know what, but early on in the film, I was confused as to who Helga was, so I went onto Wikipedia just to see who is the Helga character meant to be, and I accidentally saw that Joan Arliss played both Warren and the other girl's name, who I can't think of off the top of my head. So that ruined the ending for me. Now, the second Warren comes on screen, there's something unusual about him. I do agree with Nathan. I think, like, for the time, the makeup on Warren is kind of convincing. What really gives it away for me is the dubbing of his voice, which makes it feel really odd compared to the other actors in the scene. Also, I know the film's in black and white, but Warren looks like he has the most intense spray tan. His like, I can imagine if you were on set, his face is probably bright orange or something. But it was there is something unusual about his lips, his dubbing, his teeth, as Nathan was saying. But I think they do it. Like, I can fully believe that 1961 audiences were fooled, who aren't used to sort of bizarre twist endings like that. I did find it hard to believe, though, that the half sister Miriam didn't twig that Emily is Warren in drag when it's her brother. And if my brother put on a wig and lipstick, I think I'd still know it's my brother. Maybe not, I don't know. But I mean, you do have to suspend disbelief a bit for the no, like it's like Diana Prince and Wonder Woman or Prince Adam and He-Man. You know, how can people not tell the difference?
Well, does your brother, can he tell the difference when you do it, Eric?
How rude. I did love the film, though. I mean, a film like this, 1961, black and white, has to work quite hard to entertain me because I'm kind of stuck in my ways. I'm kind of a 70s, 80s, 90s type of person. But I was really entertained by Homicidal. I just loved how, I mean, it was as you said, Justin, it was surprisingly gory, that opening murder. I mean, as I said, it's in black and white, but it's quite bloody looking, the murder of the Justice of the Peace. And then you have Helga getting you don't see her getting decapitated. You see her head fall off kind of after the fact, but it's still, you know, it's well done. I thought the opening 20 minutes was really intriguing with like, why is this woman asking this guy to marry her? And it, you know, it's raising lots of questions. It wasn't playing its hand too early. Like Nathan, I was kind of happy that they had that kind of wrap up at the end, because I always, for the whole film, I was assuming that Emily was impersonating the brother, if you follow me. I thought like, how does Miriam not know this woman is dressing up as her brother? But then I realized it's kind of the other way around. I loved when she trashed the flower shop. She has that kind of, as you said, proto Inga. She reminded me of the pajamas man from Don't Panic when he trashes his bedroom. I thought it was kind of campy and straight out of a soap opera.
Did you like it when she pulled off the groom's head?
Oh, Justin.
They pulled off the head of the figurine.
Yes, Justin, I know, but you know exactly what you're trying to say there, and it's very bold. And it's very unbecoming. I thought that Warren looked a little bit like the skeletal aliens from They Live at times because of the teeth. There are certain scenes like that.
Sorry, Eric. I just want to mention real quick, and this actually kind of fits in with it. You know who Warren actually reminded me of? He reminded me of Dickie Cavanaugh from Girls' Night Out, which is also kind of a gender bending thing.
Very much so, now that you mention it. Yeah, completely. I thought Miriam was quite irresponsible shooting Warren at the end, because Warren's in a tussle with the doctor, and it's like, her aim has to be very precise to sort of hit Warren and not injure the doctor, but it all works out in the end. So hey-o.
And I don't think you see any bullet wound either, do you?
No.
So you're not quite sure where she's hit.
Yeah. I did love the fright break as well. As Nathan said, I just love gimmicks. You know, there's a reason why I love 3D. I would love to have been at a William Castle screening with Emergo or Emergo, whatever it's called, or the Tingler with the vibrating seat. Go on, Justin, say something rude.
Well, I mean, I see you've been recreating that with your love bleeds, haven't you, for the last 15 years?
Never. Yeah, so I'm not sure I needed the fright break, to be honest. I didn't find it a terribly terrifying or suspenseful movie. I found it very entertaining, though. It was kind of like an episode of Murder, She Wrote, just with a gender bending twist at the end. But I do love stuff like the fright break. I thought it was fun to see how it played out, because was there a gimmick on Straight Jacket? I can't remember.
I'm sure there would have been. I know that in when they did Feuds, the Betty versus Joan. They showed Joan Crawford a showing of Straight Jacket, and she walked down the aisle with an axe.
Brilliant.
Apparently very reluctantly, but apparently she kind of got into it in the end.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I'm sure there would have been something.
I'm ashamed to say this, but Straight Jacket and now Homicidal are the only two William Castle directed movies I've seen. I haven't seen the original, like, 13 Ghosts or
House on Haunted Hill. House on Haunted Hill is quite a lot of fun. 13 Ghosts, I mean, obviously there was a small spate, wasn't there, of remakes of William Castle movies. There was House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts, all around the kind of same time. Was it like around 2000,
late 90s? Yeah,
late 90s.
And House on Haunted Hill has one of the scariest scenes ever in any movie.
The original?
Yes. Remember the hag scene?
Yeah.
I thought that terrified me when I was a kid.
It certainly was a mystery.
I knew he was going to suggest that the hag was Toya, but the hag was Susie. I think you'll all find.
Johnny come lately.
Anyway, I did like Homicidal, so thank you for picking it.
Well, I'm glad. Did anyone else think that Emily might have had, or Warren might have taken quite a long time to chop off Helga's head with that stiletto knife?
I was thinking, like, poor Helga, that would be awful.
Yeah.
Well, you see her kind of going like that with the knife, don't you? But she, admittedly, she had hired someone very suspiciously to come to the house to sharpen her knife for her.
I like the knife. She's very blunt with him. Yeah. That's my joke of the week.
Thank you, Eric. I look forward to your proper joke of the week, maybe.
She's Emily Blunt.
Oh, oof. Dear. Well, anyway, drawing a discreet veil over that. Joseph, so you had seen this before. Were you fooled at all, even a little bit? Or did you kind of somewhere in the back of your mind remember that there was this twist in the movie?
No, I remembered the twist. I hadn't seen the movie in decades, but I definitely remember the twist. And I like Homicidal, but I think my reaction was one of kind of laughter and not necessarily fear. I was watching it this week and I couldn't help but laugh out loud at this really asinine selfish relative plot that's going on, which, like Eric said, he had to rewatch the ending. It would take a quantum physicist with a side degree in sexual biology to kind of explain to the most astute viewer, let alone a casual one. To start Emily or Warren, whichever is the dominant personality, they're kind of a moron. I mean, they've concocted this exceptionally convoluted murder plot to eliminate three individuals that stand in, his or her way of gaining an inheritance, which is fine, and commendable if you're a rocket scientist. But they've also made this much more complicated than it needs to be by involving the bellhop from the opening scene to begin with. I mean, not only are they out $2,000 by bribing this dude, which, by the way, adjusted for today's inflation is $21,000. But they've essentially left a witness for the cops and placed a target on their back. And I won't even begin to get into the bizarre kind of gender specifics of the will left by the deceased. But it stands to reason that the Warren personality, could have just as easily used that money to bribe some poor girl into a phony marriage to satisfy the will without resorting to murder and without having to change clothes and remove their dentures between each scene. And that's another thing that made me laugh. We're talking about the twist. In Psycho, we don't see the mother personality, but we do hear her. And so I think, William Castle, he tried to one up the stakes here by actually showing the alternate personality. And like Psycho, I think it's a cheat considering it's not the voice of the actress playing the role. But by actually seeing this personality kind of manifested, we are totally clear that the voice is a dub job and a horrible one at that. I thought, Warren, I think he's supposed to be like 20 or 21 years old, but the voice that they used to dub the Warren character, it sounds like it belongs to like this balding 55-year-old accountant who's suffering from hypertension than it does like a young, virile 21-year-old.
I'll tell you who it reminded me of. It was like, is it in Pee Wee Herman when he's playing the bellboy and he goes, "Paging Mr. Herman."
"Paging Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the front desk." Yeah, it kind of sounded like that a little bit. And that doesn't even take into account the bad lip sync with the actress's reading and the actual voice. I also got a kick out of the Helga character, who is more or less kind of partially paralyzed and mute after suffering a stroke. So as she's consistently terrorized by the Emily personality, and she can't say or do anything, and she can't warn any passing visitors of her predicament. And yet she seems to have an awful lot of autonomy in her arms to, enough to wheel herself around in her wheelchair and consistently bang this pestle against the armrest. So when someone comes to visit, couldn't she have clearly just pointed at Emily like that? Her arms are still working. Why didn't she do that?
Or written something down. I was like, write something down, you silly cow.
Or at least blink or something. Say, blink twice for this, blink once for that. But, moving away from the stuff that, made me laugh, the movie is actually pretty okay and is, it's never boring. I love the kitschy kind of opening with William Castle puffing on a stogie and he's engaging in embroidery. I thought that was funny. And the fright break is it's like you guys said, it's a really fun gimmick. There's also that creepy moment of Helga's corpse descending down the wheelchair ramp to reveal that she's been decapitated, which I imagine back then probably shocked the hell out of a lot of people. And I think the acting all around is, above average, particularly from the lead, even though part of her was dubbed. I don't know. I just laughed way more than I was thrilled, though, to be honest. Maybe Castle had a sense of humor and knew some of this stuff wouldn't stand up to scrutiny. I don't know, but part of me doubts it.
I think William Castle was always in on the joke. I think there was always meant to be a bit of humour there, because from all the contemporary reviews I've read of this, they said lots of people were screaming, but quite often the screams were drowned out by people laughing. So, and this is 1961. So I think there was, he was like the ultimate showman, wasn't he? He was the ultimate kind of, exploitation person, as in like the old-fashioned term for it, by actually kind of selling a movie as a piece of exploitation. It's about getting people in, whether they're scared or they're laughing or whatever, or a bit of sort of sexiness or something. So I think he kind of was in on. I think there was a sense of campery in this that there wasn't in Psycho, for instance. Obviously,
yeah, maybe. But like Psycho, this is probably wild and revolutionary at the time, and that fright break, may have saved a few viewers a gasp or two. I don't know, but it's all just very silly now, and I like that. And I don't know. I kind of saw this as an unintentional comedy rather than a thriller. So I mean, that's my take. Thumbs up, but probably not for the usual reasons you'd give a movie a thumbs up.
Well, I think for me, it was kind of like all the other characters, like Miriam and her boyfriend, were playing it very straight, as if this was like a 1960s kind of melodrama. But it was Jean Arliss who was playing Emily Warren, who was kind of camping it up. And some of the things she says, like when she hovers over Helga, and I can't paraphrase, she said, "And then I killed him," like that. And she's really kind of going over the top. But for me, I'll be interested in your thoughts, is that it probably is the worst thought out kind of kind of plot to inherit money, isn't it? Because
it is.
It's because one is that there's no reason that Justice of the Peace would even remember that he'd faked this birth certificate all those 20 years ago. And also Helga is a mute in a wheelchair. Who's she going to tell?
And even barring that, couldn't she have just stopped him on the side of the road and just killed him? Why did she bring in the bellhop? Now she, like I said, they have a witness.
I was asking that as well. I think it's because she wants to have witnesses to the murder, so they all blame Emily, and then when she disappears.
Yes, but if Emily is the actual personality, the dominant personality of Warren, because they were born a female, wouldn't he want to go out and live his life as Emily? Now he's going to have a target on his or her back.
You were saying about the $2,000 and what it would cost in modern money. I was wondering, she books into the hotel and she gets the big suite for $7.50. And I was like, whoa, imagine being able to book a hotel for $7.50.
Well, that'd be about 50 today, so.
Although it seemed like it was quite a sort of down market hotel, didn't it?
Possibly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was a funny story, just tipping to background, but there was a story that I read looking back for some old newspaper articles, and they said that William Castle said that they were filming the scene where Emily comes in and talks to the bellhop and the manager. And she basically was sort of saying how the old man, he said he would take her bags up to her, and she said, "No, I want the young man," basically, so how he would have felt. But apparently they were filming that in the real hotel, and the lifts opened and a guest walked out, and was suddenly shocked that there was all these cameras and lights and everything. And so William Castle shouted, "This is your life," and sort of made a joke as if she just turned out they were doing a "This Is Your Life" episode for her. So that made me laugh. But this is kind of obviously looking forward, you mentioned A Girl's Night Out, the scare maker, but obviously Sleepaway Camp, because it's kind of an interesting movie in some ways, because it isn't because of who she's playing, because obviously the actress is playing both roles. But the other Danish connection was obviously this was inspired by the Christian Jorgensen story, presumably, who was the World War II veteran who went to Denmark in the early 50s and had sex reassignment, was one of the most famous sort of transsexuals, people who kind of changed their sex, was a personality through the 50s and 60s and into the 70s. So, but with this, it's kind of interesting because I wonder if they're playing on that to make you think that that's what's going on. In fact, actually, it's rather than the way around it is, because in this she was born a female and is presenting as a female, but then is in male drag. So it's kind of like an interesting switch around, isn't it? But obviously then looking forward to a film like Sleepaway Camp seems to probably was inspired by this, I imagine.
See, in 1961, I don't like they couldn't zero in on like any kind of resentment she might have felt for being raised as a boy. So you kind of have to interpret that. So like, like I said, it's like this whole selfish relative plot is just extremely convoluted and dangerous to her identity if you think about it.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I was reading about this and I was sort of saying about how Psycho was like the first modern thriller in a lot of ways, but it was also the first film, for instance, had a flushing toilet on screen. But there's also, with this, is kind of, the plot is quite creaky apart from the twist. It's very much that whole idea of selfish relatives and inheritances and killing relatives and people involved to sort of steal money. It's very kind of the 30s, 40s kind of creaky thriller sort of cliche. But just in Psycho, you had the setup, which was the money, with Marion Crane stealing the money and escaping. But in fact, actually, that becomes a MacGuffin, doesn't it? Because there's nothing really to do with the plot. Ultimately, once she's gone, apart from them trying to get the money back, ultimately it's not. Whereas, so that was very kind of modern. Whereas this does seem to kind of harken back to some of those kind of creakier thriller tropes. But also looking forward to saying, apparently the stabbing of the Justice of the Peace, in the press at the time, they were saying it was the goriest killing that had ever been shown on screen at that time.
I wonder if that's true. It probably is, yeah.
Yeah, because it is pretty, because famously in Psycho, the way Hitchcock cuts all the shower scene, the murder scene, you don't actually see any blood, do you? You don't see any gore. There's the knife, the way it cuts, you don't actually see the knife entering the flesh at all. It's all through suggestion. Whereas with this, you actually have quite a lot of stabbing and blood, and it's in black and white, but it's still pretty gory.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder how William Castle got away with some of that stuff back in 1960, 61.
All I can think of, probably because it's released by Columbia Pictures, so it wasn't, he had the kind of big studio heft behind him, which probably helped, which is kind of quite what happens. It's the old story, isn't it? The independents kind of get hammered by the ratings board, whereas the studios get away with a lot more. But well, let's have a little talk about some background. So I'm going to go to Nathan because I know you've been up all night.
No.
Joseph, have you got any background for us?
No, I don't have anything. Sorry.
Eric, surely you've got something.
Yes, I got a few things. Yeah. So, but I have been using Nathan's favorite sources of information for this. But principal photography was started November the 1st, 1960. And Joan Arliss, whose real name is Joan Marshall, had her hair cut and dyed brown. She wore brown contact lenses and had prosthetic appliances made to alter the shape of her nose, mouth and hands. Now, if the character of Warren was having to do that every single day of his life, it's a lot of work to pass as a boy. They also, I found an image of the money back guarantee that cinema goers were given. So the ticket says that follow the yellow streak to the Coward's Corner for refund. And there was actually a screening in 2012 at Lowe's Theatre in Jersey. And they recreated the Fright Break, and they had a kind of homemade Coward's Corner, and they put two sort of actors in there wearing what looked like dunce's caps, and patrons were free to boo them and laugh at them as they walked out of the cinema at the end. And they did use the Fright Break and illuminated the middle aisle in, I think it was amber lighting rather than yellow, but that was the corridor to walk up to Coward's Corner. Time magazine in 1962 said this is one of their top 10 films of 1961, and they said that it was better than Psycho.
Wow.
Yep. Joan Marshall, who I think is brilliant in this. I think we all agree on that. She's billed as Joan Arliss, but she didn't really go on to have a huge career. She played the original mother character in the pilot episode of The Munsters. The character at the time was called Phoebe Munster, eventually became Lily Munster, and she was replaced by Yvonne DiCarlo for that role. She was married she died at the age of 62, but in her lifetime she was married 5 times, including to the director Hal Ashby, who himself was married 5 times as well. And their marriage only lasted less than a year. He, of course, is a director of things like Being There, Coming Home, Harold and Maude, 8 Million Ways to Die, amongst others. I was looking at William Castle's credits. I didn't realize he was a producer on Rosemary's Baby.
He appears in it as well, doesn't he? There's a cameo in there where I think he's outside a phone booth, sort of in one scene.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was working on that.
Well, apparently he wanted, William Castle, he kind of wanted to get into A-list stuff because he'd been working for like major studios since the 40s. And so he bid on Rosemary's Baby, and so did Hitchcock. But they gave it to Roman Polanski instead. But he wanted it as like his first A picture.
Cool. And according to William Castle, the gimmick of the fright break worked really well. He said that theatre averages were around $20,000 weekly. This is 1961, so that's probably pretty good. And only $100 were in refunds were ever asked for. So, and that's all I have. I was up all night.
I've looked back through some old newspaper reviews just to sort of talk a little bit about this, but the San Francisco Examiner called it a bloody mess and kind of rolled their eyes over Castle's declaration. He had the idea for the film years before Psycho, which I already said, saying that if this was the case, it's the strangest coincidence in the annals of Hollywood. It said the audience shrieks were drowned out by guffaws and belly laughs. So as I mentioned, obviously the audience kind of saw the campery in it and sort of were kind of reacting to it in a kind of way. I kind of don't know if you get that these days. I kind of guess you do with like good, bad movies, but you don't really see good, bad movies in cinemas anymore, do you? Unintentional. I'm not saying this is a bad movie, but a movie like this that is designed to scare and to make people laugh kind of at the same time, rather than a parody or something like Scream, which kind of oscillates between scares and laughs. The Fort Worth Telegraph, said it was a carnival of suspense, and said there were lots of screams in the audience. And again, this is where I got this idea that said it's the first murder was perhaps the goriest ever seen on screen up until that point. And lastly, the reviewer in the Denton Record Chronicle said Alfred Hitchcock will probably turn over in his TV box when he hears about Homicidal. And of course, by the after Psycho, Hitchcock kind of moved into TV, didn't he? Alfred Hitchcock Presents. In fact, actually, I think Psycho was famous, wasn't it? Because they did it with like a TV crew, I think, on the back lot of Universal. So actually, to make it quick and in black and white, they did it kind of so it was kind of a forerunner in a lot of ways. But so I'm trying to think I think this is the only out of these movies that William Castle did. I don't think there's any other kind of proto slashers, is there, apart from Straitjacket? But it did go, there was an awful lot, just in the same way as we talk about the early 80s slashers and how they gave birth to, like Friday the 13th, Halloween gave birth to all the movies that we love. After the success of this, and more so Psycho, there were loads. There was like The Taste of Fear, which Scream of Fear, which is, I think that was the British kind of post-Psycho movie. Obviously, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane of 1962 with Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. And they kind of borrowed, when they did Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, they kind of had the scene, if you remember, with the decapitated head rolling down the stairs in that, which seemed to be kind of borrowed from Homicidal. There's Paranoid, Nightmare, and all sorts of different movies that kind of follow this. So yeah, a lot of fun. So I'm glad we finally covered it. So was there any kind of feedback? Were our listeners, watchers, were they interested in leaving feedback for this movie?
Yeah, here's a couple. This one says, I'm a sucker for William Castle's films, and this is one of my favorites. Seen as a direct response to Psycho, it also references other Hitchcock films, most notably Suspicion. However, this is rather out of admiration than plagiarism. It's suspenseful and does do well at keeping you guessing what's behind it all. The fright break is hilarious and certainly one of Castle's gimmicks that was too over the top. That was from Ingo Dirkschneider. This one says, this was Castle's first stab at out-hitching Hitchcock, and it's a fine little knife thriller. The Psycho influences are obvious, but Castle and writer Rob White make great use of the material. Joan Marshall does well in her dual role. Yeah, she does. Her one role. For me, it's the best of the first wave of Psycho imitators. That was from Rob Fries. And this one says, Joan Marshall, credited as Jean Arliss, is wonderfully bizarre. The fear break is peak Castle showmanship, and the whole thing plays like a brisk, offbeat cousin companion piece to Straitjacket, also from Castle. They go on to say, I can't believe the Hysteria Continues is now 15 years old. I was just revisiting the 8th birthday episode 179, Iced, earlier today. As always, I'm so grateful for the many, many years of entertainment from my favorite podcasters. I still can't believe Eric's jokes of the weeks haven't gotten better after all these years.
Oh my God.
Which is about to prove any moment now.
And that was from, sorry, Eric, that was from Sean Guerrero.
Well, thank you for everyone who wrote in. So, but Eric, well, let's find out if you're 15 years. Let's see if that is where you're about to peak or actually get into the funny. Let's see.
It's my joke of the week. It's so bright and fantastic.
Prepare yourself for this one now. It's as good. Did you know that Clive Barker devised the chairlift for the housekeeper in this film? It was called the Helga Razor. Helga Razor. See, Joseph's laughing.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Joseph liked it, Justin.
So I'm just trying to look for the laughs.
Oh, shh.
Well, they say you should be nice to people on their birthday.
Yeah, why don't you ask Joseph? Because he was laughing.
But since Nathan was very straight-faced.
I don't think Nathan's headphones must have broken just as I did the punchline.
Yeah, they broke.
But no, thank you, Eric. No, it's your valiant attempt there. So, and it was actually quite funny. I find your puns quite amusing sometimes. So that was one of your better ones, I think. So,
do you like my puns as much as you like my buns?
What, your Chelsea buns, or you?
If you want to call them that.
That wouldn't be the first time they had cream all over them, would it? So anyway, well, let's have a little chat about what we've been watching recently. So there's a couple of movies that I have seen, but I think I know one of them Nathan's definitely seen. So Nathan, have you seen anything you want to tell us about?
Okay. Yeah, I've actually seen 3 things. I'll start with the one that maybe you've seen. I watched the to-be original movie called Hag, which is
about Susie.
I was waiting on one of y'all to say something.
Oh, for goodness sake.
But yeah, it's a to-be thriller, and it's a from hell movie. It's kind of like the like she is a psycho woman seeking a gay best friend, although she also wants to sleep with him, so it's kind of weird. And I really enjoyed it. I think that I feel like they made this movie tongue in cheek. I mean, it's not necessarily played out as a comedy. It's played out pretty much as a thriller, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of winking at the audience as well, because there's just a lot of, kind of over the top scenes in it. I thought the woman that played Mag the Hag is what she calls herself. I thought that she was excellent in it. I loved her performance, and there's it's got, when she gets crazy, and needs to go be by herself to get her crazy out, she likes to rip at her own nails, and that kind of stuff really bothers me. I hate stuff involving nails. It looks very
Nathan,
painful. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. You guys will be able to answer this better than I would, obviously, but isn't the term quote unquote fag hag, isn't that kind of like a bad thing now? I'm surprised a movie in 2025 or 26 would get away with that.
Yeah, she gets called out for saying it. But I mean, she says it in an innocent way, like she and all that. But honestly, I don't get offended by anything. I don't care. But yeah, I would say that the first hour I liked better than the last little bit. I think my problem is with the finale is that it felt kind of underwhelming. I want to see Rebecca De Mornay chasing Annabelle Sciorra through a house with a shovel, or Jason Lee chasing Bridget Fonda with a hook,
or Susie chasing Toya with a chainsaw.
No, nobody wants to see that.
But that's what I want to see in the finales. And this one, it's not really a spoiler, maybe kind of a semi-spoiler a bit, but they create these traps, and they're ready for her at the end when she's going to show up. And she shows up and subdues them in 20 seconds. And there's a hilarious moment where, like, the guy, and keeping in mind he's probably over twice her size, has a gun on her, and she easily disarms him. Like, just kind of does a little move and gets the gun away pretty easily. So I kind of thought that the people at the end were very ineffective at dealing with her, very much so. But I mean, it wasn't bad. It was, I guess I wanted more cat and mouse or a good chase scene, and we didn't really kind of get that. There's a great moment where one of the characters is eating an apple, and she's been poisoning them by putting like a needle in it and injecting it with poison, but the needle breaks and she can't get it out, so she just pushes it in further. And then, of course, later, someone's eating the apples, and it's like, oh God, is that the one that's got the needle in it? So yeah, that's a pretty wild moment. And God, there's so much I would say about this, but I will say that the ending song is amazing, and I've listened to it like a lot. It's a song about friendship and being at the ocean. And one of my favorite lines is, "It's time to celebrate your best friend on the shore."
Very good.
I was like, Eric might like this song. It's very punny.
Yeah, celebrate. Very good.
And what's funny is, she's not a good singer. So, I mean, it's a really hilarious song that she kind of, the character just wrote and sang. And I guess she thought she did excellent. But yeah, it's just, you would have to hear the song, but it's an amazing, amazing ditty. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So
So on your recommendation, I watched it on Tubi, and I enjoyed it as well. I kind of looked at, because I thought there's something kind of, something about the Tubi originals sometimes, and this one especially. They have a feel. I think it's to do with the budgets, really, because it's got a gloss to it, but it feels like, Eric will know, like Home and Away, or those kind of Australian soaps. Although actually they do have a lot of outdoor shots in them, but when they're indoors, everything is has a kind of almost a slight sense of unreality to it. It's kind of polished, and it's too polished almost. Nothing feels quite real.
It's like a high frame rate.
Well, it's kind of that, but it's also, it's kind of living in a world where everything is just kind of, everyone's a little bit chipper, or everything. It's just kind of that slight hyper sense of reality. And it's kind of, but in this as well, they don't have, there's only a couple of shots that are outside. Everything else takes place indoors. So it has this kind of slight weird kind of, high saturated claustrophobia to it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's interesting so much. It's very, it kind of pushes quite a lot of boundaries for a kind of a cable movie. So you've got, it's a very gay thing, but beyond this woman who's trying to sort of get with this gay man, there's quite a lot of nudity in, kind of semi-nude, lots of butts, bare butts and things like that. But I enjoyed it, but I didn't go quite far enough. Like Nathan said, excuse me, the ending kind of reminded me of the ending in Play Misty for Me, where I've watched that again the other day when Clint Eastwood punches Jessica Walter, I think, in the face, and she goes flying off from the balcony in his kind of Carmel sort of mansion, or kind of big sort of 60s townhouse, kind of not a townhouse, beach house, and goes flying and landing in the ocean. But in this, it's the budget version where she gets pushed and she falls over a balcony, and that's it. So everything's just a little bit, excuse me, sort of a COVID cough, but everything's just, so I think it could have, if it had been like a non-Tubi sort of thing, but it's like made kind of like a theatrical feature, it might have gone a little bit further. But I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a good time waste. So did you know it was all shot in South Africa as well? Most of the cast are South African.
The Tubi movie I recommended, well, I didn't really recommend it. It was okay, but I talked about it last time, was Takeout. It was also filmed in South Africa.
There's quite a lot, because wasn't the Slumber Party Massacre remake, or the kind of the latest one, that was South African as well, wasn't it? There's quite a few films like going back to the original 80s slashers, The Demon with Cameron Mitchell, that was a South African slasher as well, sort of pretending to be a North American. So it was it's like South Africa is the African Canada, isn't it, when it comes to slasher movies?
And just going back to the ending theme song, I have to say, like, I love her rhyming, because the gay character that she's wanting is named Rowan, and she sings like, it's like, Rowan, I love you like the ocean. love's a shell. I wish you well. Like, it's so awfully written, but I love it.
It sounds like it's like SpongeBob SquarePants type of song or something.
I could see it. I was thinking like "Don't Go in the Woods" with their ending song.
Yeah.
So I take it, Eric and Joseph, you've not had the pleasure.
Not yet, no.
No, I've actually almost started watching it the other night, but I didn't get around to it. But if it doesn't go far enough, I'm not in a hurry.
So what else have you seen, Nathan?
I also watched Bugonia, which is this new movie with Emma Stone, where these two conspiracy theorist guys, she's kind of this like high-powered like executive, and these two conspiracy theory guys get it in their heads that she's an alien, like basically bent on world destruction. So they kidnap her. And it's one of those movies where they kind of go back and forth, like something will happen and it seems like they might be right. And then something will happen and it's like, oh, these guys are insane. So it's one of those movies that kind of, you don't know until the end, what if they're right or if, any of them will survive. But I liked it. I kind of like the mind games, when she's kidnapped, she's trying to use like all these different methods to get them to let her go because she knows she's dealing with two people that, are not all there mentally. So she's trying to play her cards carefully. And I thought everybody was excellent in it. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, I was really invested in it. I liked it a lot, actually.
Okay, I've been wanting to. It was played at cinema recently here, so I've been curious about to check it out. So I might see if it's streaming.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one I saw is called So Torn, SEW. It's this really very odd movie about this seamstress, and she comes across two guys on the side of the road who have had a motorcycle wreck. And like there's cocaine and this like briefcase full of cash, and she kind of stops her car, and it's one of these movies that kind of goes in three different directions. Like she's got three different choices she could make in her mind. And if the movie kind of shows you if she took this path, this is what would happen. If she took this path, this is what would happen. One of those. It's a lot of fun. It's an extremely weird because she sets these crazy elaborate traps with needle and thread, and they're unbelievable. I mean, it's like Home Alone, like with threads, basically. But I mean, it's still fun, even how absurd it really is. And the cast are actually really good in it. And, I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I have to say that like the way the characters behave and just the way these traps are set up, it just feels like it takes place in some alternate reality that doesn't take place in the real world. But because there's one path that she takes that is called the police. And she's in this small town, and literally the only policeman in this whole town is a small elderly lady who can barely get out of the car. And like, there's no other police in this town. And so, I mean, it's very odd and weird, but I mean, I think it's supposed to be kind of quirky and kind of like a weird dark comedy as well as a thriller. So yeah, I liked it.
Okay, I've not heard of that, so thank you for the recommendation. So, Eric and Joseph, you've seen either of those, Bugonia or So Torn?
No, I've heard of Bugonia, because it played in cinemas recently, but not So Torn. I was just Googling So Torn there, and the director was born in the year 2000. I feel old.
Well, thank you, Nathan. Well, let's see. Eric, have you seen anything you want to tell us about?
No, not since we recorded last week. I haven't, no, apart from our picks for the podcast.
Well, Joseph, how about you?
Nothing horror related, and this will probably only interest Eric, and it may not even interest him that much, but I got it into my head that I had to watch all 7 Police Academy movies because I know you've done it. When I was a kid, those movies were laugh out loud funny, but through 7 movies, I laughed 3 times, and they were just kind of laughs. I don't know how that series endured as much as it did.
7 is possibly the worst film ever made.
Well, which one's y'all's favorite?
Wow. I actually, you know what? it's really hard to pick a Police Academy movie that's your favorite, but I actually kind of like Part 6 because it has a plot and it has a mystery element to it. I kind of like that.
I used to like Part 2. I haven't watched it in full in a long time. I did have it taped off the television along with Nightmare on Elm Street on a VHS back in the 80s. But yeah, I don't think you can say you have a favorite Police Academy movie. They're all interchangeable, except I will warn people that Part 7 is possibly the worst thing ever made in the history of everything.
I made the joke that, from Part 5 onwards, it got so bad that they couldn't even get Steve Guttenberg to come back. They had to settle for Matt McCoy.
Yeah.
And then by the time Part 7 came around, they couldn't even get Matt McCoy to come back, so they had to settle for Charlie Schlatter. I laughed at Part 2 like once. I laughed at Part 3 maybe twice, and then I laughed at Part 4 once. I think I laughed. There's one scene in the first one that I laughed. I think it's the two bully characters who they get promoted to run the squad in Harris's stead. One of them throws books out a window, but the window's closed. I laughed at that scene in the first one, but that's the gist of the humor in these films.
Well, I used to like Bobcat Goldthwait's character in it, and there was this urban myth going around. I don't know if it was just Ireland or if it was around England as well, but this urban myth that was his real voice, that he had some kind of birth defect that made him speak funny.
I loved his scene in Part 3, though, when I can't remember the guy's name, but his roommate is in the shower and he shows up like with it looks like it doesn't even really look like a blade to me, but it's supposed to be like a blade, and the guy's screaming, and when he opens it up, he's just standing on the other side of the shower curtain like, oh, do you want to use my shampoo? Like, who does that?
Yeah, the one thing I learned from rewatching the Police Academy movies all these years later is you can't go home again sometimes.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, just to finish things off, I'm surprised you haven't. I'm very disappointed, Nathan, you haven't watched Stalked by My Doctor yet.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. I did watch that.
Oh, you did watch it?
Yeah, I did. You go ahead, though.
You're unfriended.
Well, because obviously I'm kind of closing up on my book, but obviously I've got a small chapter at the end of like post 1996 from Hell movies, so I'm trying to watch as many as I can, and there's a huge amount. I watched to get some idea of some of the ones that came out. Obviously, it was interesting because 1996 you had Scream, and then Scream kind of basically those post Scream slashers kind of basically took over from the From Hell movies. But you had films like Swim Fan, which kind of came out, which is very silly, but like a teen version of those. Which you did have some kind of teen versions of the From Hell movies. You got the Mother May I Sleep with Danger with Tori Spelling, which if you've ever seen that, it's completely ridiculous. It's wonderful, but the end goes into the last 15 minutes are Friday the 13th, even with the killer jumping up out of the water and pulling Tori Spelling into the water from a canoe. But Stalked by My Doctor was one I've seen kind of recommended. I think there's 5 of these movies, and they've all got Eric Roberts. And he plays this heart surgeon who is kind of like an older man, but he's very handsome. He's a millionaire. But every time he tries to go on a date with someone, he ruins it. And it's probably because he basically says within about 10 minutes of meeting a woman that he wants her to have his babies.
Women love that, no?
But they love that, yeah. But there's a great scene in it where he first of all he gets stood up. He's at a restaurant and someone phones and says, never contact me again. And he gets stood up and he drives his car really, really fast. You think he's going to crash it. But the next date, it's going really, really well until he basically says, I want to marry you. I want you to have my babies. And then she says, no, this is over. And then he kind of gets up and she says, can I give you some advice? I think you need to get some therapy. And he says, I'll give you some advice, like fuck off. And he says, and you've got a fat ass. And then he chases her out of the restaurant. And then she gets in the car and drives off. And he goes, you're unfriended from Facebook or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth it alone. But then he goes on. There's a teenage girl, who gets into a car crash with her boyfriend, and they find she's got a heart defect. So he operates on her. He falls in love with her. She's about 18, but he falls in love with her. And then he just gets into the head that he's in this relationship with her. And for half the movie, she's kind of like, no, he's really nice. He saved my life. And he ends up by tying her to the bed. And he says he's going to chop her arms and legs off and to keep her there, a bit like Boxing Helena. And she ends up going to her own funeral. But there's so many ridiculous moments in that movie. There's a great scene in it where she collects these really horrible dolls that look like the kind of nightmare dolls. They've got these face, and he gets into her bedroom, starts basically masturbating in her bed. And then she comes back and he disappears, but then he meets her at a mall with her friend and gives her like one of these dolls, and she goes, "How did you know I collected these dolls?" But my favorite, because I've seen 3 of them, and then the next one he ends up in Mexico and saves a girl on the beach and falls in love with her. But in the third one, the original victim comes back and tries to frame him. But I think in the second one, there's a great scene where he makes pancakes. Her name's Amy, and he does pancakes in the letters of the name Amy, A-M-Y. But my most favourite scene of it is in the third one, where one character is basically framing him and pretends she's died, but has to go by disguise. So they try and disguise her, this teenage girl, and first they give her a Groucho Marx wig. And then they give her this really bad blonde wig and give her a tan like Tan Mom. And then it doesn't fool anyone. So it's just kind of, the whole thing is just ridiculous all the way through. But I haven't got to 4 or 5 yet. But the fourth one, I think, is set in a sleep center where he ends up.
How many is there?
5.
5. Jesus. I've never heard of this series until you mentioned it this week.
No, but in the third one, he gets found not guilty, even though he's kind of done all these terrible things in the other 2 films. And Eric Roberts is just perfection in this. He's just having such a laugh. On Eric Roberts, I looked up, he's done something like 1,300 credits.
I'm just looking at, like, 2024 alone, he must have been in about 30 films by the look of it.
Yeah, he makes huge amounts. But, Joseph, what were your thoughts on Stalked by My Doctor?
Yeah, I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it. I loved it. You know what you're going to get with a late in the game Eric Roberts movie at this point. I mean, he's always been kind of like that. He's always been kind of over the top, but he's so sincere in his roles. Like he's not looking down at the material. He's happy to be there and, to be paid for it. I loved it. I laughed. I want to see the rest of them now. Actually, I may actually get to some of those. I want to see the one you were talking about where they put the girl in the Groucho Marx wig.
Well, it's not meant to be. I mean, it's just like a really short kind of black curly wig, but it looks like a kind of Groucho Marx wig.
Ooh, is it the new Jan Brady?
Well, she gets a new Jan Brady. Well, it is kind of like the new Jan Brady, but not as big. It's not an afro. But then she gets that kind of blonde Marsha hair. But it's that really kind of like that, the party wig, the nylon party wig. And then they do up like Tan Mom. And she's not fooling anyone. And the police kind of look at her and just go, "Hold on a minute, aren't you so-and-so?" But yeah, no, the whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. I think they stopped making them in 2021.
Oh,
so far anyway. Yeah. So anyway, well, that was our 15th anniversary show. So what are we covering next time?
Yes, well, we had Return to Sleepaway Camp on our last show, and that it's famous for having a killer disguised with a funny prosthetic nose, so it got me in mind of maybe we should cover Giallo, starring Adrian Brody, and directed by Dario Argento.
Oh my God.
Interesting. I've never seen it. Because its reputation precedes it.
Yeah, if you've seen Mother of Tears or anything like that, then you'll know kind of what Dario Argento type of film you're going to get.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone, for who've been us from the beginning, or if you joined us along the way. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the ride. There's plenty more to come. And we'll catch you next time when Hysteria continues. So thank you for watching or listening, and see you next time for some Giallo and big noses. So say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye to you guys.
Bye. 1-5.
Oh, right. I was seeing that as 6, and I was like, what?
Justin, Eric, Nathan, and Joseph, tell us what to do.
When the killer is behind you, your heartbeat racing fast, and the fear will comes from